Hey, it's Pam, and today I want to talk about game difficulty. Games have all kinds of different levels of difficulty and different ways of making themselves more difficult, and I just had some thoughts on what I look for in a game in regards to difficulty. Now, the reason this topic came up was this month's Cartridge Club pick of Super Ghouls' Ghosts. If you don't know what Cartridge Club is, it's a site where we pick one game a month, a retro game usually, and everyone discusses it on the forums, and then there's a podcast at the end of the month. I will include a link in the description if you are interested in joining. But yes, back to Super Ghouls' Ghosts. This is a really difficult game. I played it for about 10 minutes, and then I just threw my controller away in frustration. I really wanted nothing to do with it, so I have very little to contribute to the discussion of this game this month. But it made me think about difficulty and how people's appreciation and tolerance for it is much different from person to person. Generally, when I play a game and there are difficulty choices, I'll just play on normal. I think that some challenge is fun, but a lot of the time I'm not very patient, so when something gets challenging, when I start failing or dying a lot, I just get angry and then I don't really want to play. So I'd rather my playthrough in general be a nice, pleasant experience where I get to enjoy the story of the game and the gameplay itself without putting too much pressure or frustration on myself. For the most part, when I finish a game on normal, I don't really have any desire to up the difficulty and play again. I'm sort of one of those who feels like once I've beat a game, I'm sort of done with it. Now, there are some exceptions to that. Occasionally in a shoot 'em up, I will up the difficulty if I really like it and the mechanics are good. I'll try to challenge myself a little bit by going to the harder difficulties there. A big exception is XCOM. That was one of the first games where I played, and after I completed on normal, I wanted to go to the harder difficulties and the classic difficulties. The Ironman Mode is one that particularly appeals to me. That's where you can't save the game yourself. It'll just save after every move that you make. So if a soldier dies, if you make a mistake, if you miss a UFO, too bad. The game's already saved. You can't go back. And it's cool that, the game forces you to go and stand by your choices, and you can't just reload an earlier save, which is something I used to do when I was younger a lot. There's also a lot of different kinds of difficulty. Generally, I'm okay with difficulty that involves quick reaction times. So most platformers, although there are some exceptions, again, shoot 'em ups, if you need precision movement, quick reaction time, things like quick time events, I'm okay with that kind of difficulty. To me, that seems like a pure kind of form of difficulty, as long as I don't have to fight my controls in order for my movements to be precise. However, there are a lot of types of difficulty that just bother me. One thing that really bugs me, and it's something that plagues retro games much more than modern games, is that you need to memorize a level in order to get through it successfully. That's something I don't like. I think when I was a kid playing these retro games, it wasn't so much of a big deal. I had a lot of time on my hands. I didn't have that many games to play. So the idea of playing something over and over and over until I knew everything that was coming and could react to it, that wasn't so bad. Now, that's not something I find particularly appealing. If I go into a game and feel like I come across something that's a trap that I really would have no way of avoiding, no matter how fast my reaction time is, and it's something that I just need to learn to avoid, that generally tends to turn me off of a game. Going back to Super Ghouls' Ghosts, there are all kinds of hidden treasure chests, and the first time playing through level 1, I barely found any of these, and I actually had to go watch a video which showed that there was all these hidden treasure chests, and you can get upgraded weapons and upgraded armor, which made everything much more easy to play. But had I not watched a video, I never would have known about these things. So I felt that was kind of cheap. So I didn't really enjoy how that made me feel. Also, when I did happen to find a treasure chest, this asshole wizard dude just came out and turned me into a baby, which I didn't like so much. Now, this also applies to games that I actually really like, especially as a kid. Startropics is one. There's a number of places where you need to walk through walls or destroy walls in order to get weapons and items and things that make your playthrough much easier. And if you don't know about these things, it gets very difficult. These things, I guess they're not technically required if you're amazing at the game, but in general, they make things much more doable. They make enemies easier to kill. They make bosses easier to get past. While playing the game recently, going back through the first sort of half of the game, which I still had, all the memories of all the secrets in my head, I had a lot of fun. But then when I got near the end of the game, which I didn't really remember, my fun level went down because I didn't know about those secrets. And I was, again, having to play a level over and over and over to learn the movements of enemies and things in order to get past them. Another kind of difficulty I don't really like is harsh punishments for failing. That's things like having a lack of checkpoints, especially in things like platformers. As I said, I don't want to play a level over and over, get a little bit further, have to go back to the beginning, get a little bit further, have to go back to the beginning. That seems like a huge time sink for me, and it ends up being more frustrating than rewarding. One recent game I played that did this was Ori and the Blind Forest, which I actually really, really enjoyed. And but there was just this one point, I think fairly early in the game, where there is an escape gauntlet and you have to escape this water that's rushing up behind you. And you have to make use of a new skill that you had basically just learned, and you have to go up this whole gauntlet, and you can't save. In the game, you sort of make your own save points, but you can't do it while you're in combat, so you have to do this whole thing in one go. And it took me a number of tries, and by the end of it, I was really quite angry. The whole scene is, I think, about 90 seconds long, which when I say it doesn't sound that long, but when you're actually doing it and having to do it over and over and over again, having to do a 90-second perfect run in a platformer is really quite challenging. And had I not liked the game so much up until that point, I might have just bailed. Luckily, I did eventually get past it, and I finished the game, which was, again, a really great game, but just that kind of no checkpoint, making you go back to the beginning every time, that's not a difficulty that really appeals to me. Basically, I like some challenging games, but when things get too frustrating, I'm failing often, things are taking a lot of time to go through, I sort of re-examine whether I want to be playing this game. I mean, every game has their frustrating bits because no game is perfect, but if the frustration is outweighing the fun, then it's not really worth playing for me. There are so many other games I could be playing that could be bringing joy into my life rather than making me throw controllers across the room. Not that I do that. So what I want to know is, what do you think about game difficulty? Are you someone who likes to put it on the highest difficulty and feel a sort of pride in overcoming great challenges, or are you someone who just wants gaming to be fun and not quite as frustrating as the higher difficulties can entail? Are there any particular types of difficulty that you enjoy, or on the other hand, are there any types of difficulty that you don't like? Let me know in the comments or make your own video and tell me what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.